Korean life.
Good times. All right, welcome back to another episode of This Korean Life, number 124, featuring Niall Ruddy, the owner-operator of Arise Art Space in Busan. Whereabouts in Busan?
It's just beside Suyong Station, very conveniently one street behind the McDonald's outside Suyong Station. So very easy to find.
Is that why you chose the location?
Honestly, it was partly the reason. Like we were looking for locations somewhere around that area, sort of Gwangan, Gumyeonsan, because that's, there's a lot of the foreign community kind of live around there. It's very convenient for anyone in the city. I mean, Busan's such a wide city, but it's still convenient. Suyong's a hub. And then we looked at a bunch of different places around there, and there was one behind McDonald's, and I was just thinking purely, if you get somebody who's traveling or somebody who's living in Busan for a year or 2 years, and you just say outside Suyong behind the McDonald's, boom. Easy.
McDonald's doesn't pick shitty real estate either.
No, they know what's up.
They know what they're doing. And give us the reason you started this? As we just mentioned, or as we just talked about, you're a teacher like most of us here, but you've decided to step out and start the Arise Art Space. What was the inspiration for doing so?
Yeah, as you say, there's, for English speakers, it's very easy, especially whenever I first came here sort of 15 years ago. I wanted to travel and sort of experience more. I'm from a small town in Northern Ireland, so I was trying to get out and sort of see more of the world. So, myself, like a lot of people, came out here, and really the English teaching started out as just a means to an end, to be able to travel and be able to see more things and have money and free time to be able to indulge my other interests. Over the years, I've got better qualified and obviously more experience with teaching, but it still isn't something that I'm
doesn't scratch the itch.
Exactly. So for a long time, I was thinking about, my wife and I, we were doing a lot of exhibitions together, like art exhibitions around Busan, and we were involved in different sort of festivals like Angle Magazine and stuff. We were involved with some stuff with them. And eventually we just thought, like, okay, my wife and I are both sort of trying to be professional artists, and we were sort of thinking, if we eventually move to Europe, which is on the cards, would it be better for me just to have the experience only teaching? Or maybe if we get a bit more experience in the art world sort of professionally, that would probably help. And then on top of that, hopefully we can give something to Busan, build some community around art rather than, there's a lot of really great community places that you can go, but a lot of them are kind of bars, which is good. And I took full advantage of that in my younger days. But, I think we want to provide options for people. Sure. There's a lot of people nowadays, younger people, who don't just want to go out and drink. I think if we are able to build a community around like an art space, I think that would be really beneficial for the expat community.
I love that. And one of my biggest things here is people complaining just generally, there's nothing to do. There's so, like, I love that you took the bull by the horns and you said, we're gonna do it ourselves and build a community. That's really nice.
I had the same thing. I just came from playing basketball with a bunch of Korean pastors from church. It's kind of a church group, anyways.
Right.
But Robin, Robin comes to play, and she's probably 5'2" from the States, California, and her passion is basketball. And she probably plays on 3 teams. But, the guys say, I have nothing to do, you just got to go out and find it. And if it's not there, maybe you have to make it.
You have to make it.
But she comes and plays with us from like 6:30 till 8:30 in the morning. Then she goes all the way out to Buku and plays for 3 hours there. And you just got to get out there and try and make it happen, or join a group that's already doing it. So I'm glad to hear that you're also taking initiative and getting stuff going. So it's always good for the community to have a bunch of leaders and pioneers.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, for me, whenever I first came here, like I was living out in the countryside for a while. Just, you know, I got a bit sick of the way things were, you know, the way things were for day-to-day life here, for various reasons. And I was living out in the countryside, but I had a compulsion that I wanted to organize something. I had done like some events in the first couple of years that I was here, but I got that sort of, like you say, you know, I had an itch and I needed to scratch it. And so I wanted to get out and find, okay, who do I talk to make an exhibition happen? You know, and I didn't really know that many people in Busan, but Busan was where I wanted to go. Yeah. And at that point, I thought, what I want is for there to be somewhere accessible, somewhere cross-cultural that I can go and speak to and say, hey, can I do an exhibition here? So it was just like, at that time, there was nothing really available. So we did exhibitions in bars and cafes. Yeah. I wish that our space had existed then, you know? So then eventually it's just like, I'm in a better position myself. Why don't I do
the next logical step?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I think more times than not, people will find that the things they're looking for already exist. In your case, not. But, you know, same at my university, so the international students, tell me what you like. Cricket? Go see this guy. You want belly dancing? Go over here. You want? There's stuff all over the place. Maybe they're not always cross-cultural, but sometimes it takes that. I mean, I'm right now probably the only foreign guy I coach at the ice hockey teams here, and but now it's funny. Like we laugh. The Korean coach people. Ours is kind of a volunteer community style team where the other ones are all kind of big money and typically Korean styled, and they laugh like when somebody new comes and like, well, who's this guy? Like, he's the coach. And he's yelling at my kid. Yeah, just relax. He's fine. Whatever. Maybe this doesn't follow all the Korean rules that you know, but their kid's fine. Just let them go. And it's become kind of cross-cultural. And now, like, I'm the pillar of that community, and the Koreans are coming to that one. So if you go out and you look for it, you can usually find something in most areas of interest. But yeah, I'm glad you've created this space, and I hope a lot of people benefit from it.
Me too.
How did you come about the name Arise Art Space?
Would it be too silly to say that it was a dream? No. Like, legitimately, I have very vivid dreams, and I remember my dreams. I don't know.
Lucid dreamer?
Not lucid, because I think that's when you can control it. I have no control over what goes on, unfortunately. But I think it's probably, you know, sometimes I get that, you know, you're half asleep, half awake, you know, sleep paralysis. I get that quite regularly. So
is that terrifying?
Terrifying, totally.
I had a buddy who I worked with, and he said, like, Brian, you have no idea. I'll just be laying in bed, and I wake up, and then there's a big boulder that's just rolling towards me, and I'm going to get smushed, and I can't move.
So oftentimes it's you see someone in the room. For me, anyway, like I've heard that this is quite a common aspect to it. So you wake up, you can't move at all. Like, you can't move a muscle in your body, and out of the corner of your eye, you can see some figure in the corner of the room. And what I've come to realize, because whenever I was younger, I had no idea what was going on. And I've got techniques now. So what you do is, if it happens to you, you start trying to move like you're just one muscle, like your finger or something. And if you get that going, then the rest will follow. So that's what you do. If anyone out there has got the same problem.
I think that happened to me. I was taking a nap in my car between classes randomly a couple weeks ago, and I think that happened to me. Like, I was awake, but I couldn't move. And I was like, whoa. I wasn't getting crushed by anything, but
it's to do with your breathing as well. So if you've got like sleep apnea, so it happens to me if I lie on my back and then my head's sort of tilted back and I'm not breathing properly. So that's whenever it kind of kicks in. But anyway, I have all these kind of issues around that, and then, you know, I'll be half awake, half asleep sometimes, and then I think just we were obviously thinking a lot about the gallery and what would be a good name.
Sleep paralysis.
Sleep apnea. Let's call it apnea.
Apnea Art Space.
But Arise, it kind of came to me sort of half awake, half asleep, just because we were thinking about how can we give the place a name that's going to be typifies the idea of what we want people to associate us with. And it's sort of, you know, because to me it could be like Get Up or, you know, Elevate or something, you know, something like that. But Arise to me is like a kind of associated with, like knights and stuff, like Arise Sir Lancelot kind of thing.
Arise from your
so
grave.
it's a bit more of a grander, like, really get up. And it's kind of funny because for us, Arise, we started that, like, we've only been open since September. And then you're familiar with Hechomoyo, the art collective? So it's a guy up in Seoul, and he started a collective which is very different from what we're doing. But it's interesting that both of them have happened kind of at the same time. But basically, Hechomoyo is the military kind of command to gather together. Okay. So that's the way he would describe it. Cool. And it's the same kind of thing. So it's obviously Korean, but it's about get together, elevate yourself, do something, and that's kind of similarly where we were coming from, like
very cool,
motivational in a word,
Yeah. So anyways, you mentioned you opened in September. You can have some preconceptions about how it's going to be run, before opening. And I think once it actually starts, it can be a very different case. How has it changed in the last 4 months? Has it changed?
Yeah. So as you say, like, I think there were a lot of things that we anticipated before we started, and we had plans for what we wanted to do and what we wanted the place to be like. But the thing is, I can see how people can really benefit from having a family that comes from a business owning background, because they'll give you a lot of help along the way with just everyday little details. But my wife and I, both of us come from very sort of working class, like my wife's from Sahagu in Busan, which is very working class neighborhood. I'm from a really small town in Northern Ireland. So we don't have that we never had that. We didn't have that guidance. Like, to be fair, my wife's father, he has a business running like refurbishment, so like a small business, and he helped us a lot. He actually helped us with the refurbishment of the gallery. So shout out to Ju Young for that.
That kind of entrepreneurial mind, kind of. Yeah,
so he has it to an extent, but he couldn't give us a huge amount of advice on running a gallery. You know what I mean? So we probably, if we had known what we were in for, we wouldn't have done it. So in a way, it's good that we were kind of going in a little bit blind. But every day, I trust both of us to be competent enough to learn the lessons that we're presented with, and every day we're learning, because you don't think about a lot of things, like
it's hard to guess what's gonna pop up.
But even like small things, like putting out the rubbish at the right time and being there to do that, opening hours, hanging paintings. Like, you just think, how am I going to hang a painting? You put a hole in the wall, stick a screw in, and then hang the painting. But there's so much more involved to get it to a professional level. We've got these laser level things, and exactly. You need to know where the stud parts are. You need to know where the electrical wires are. You need to make sure that everything. So if you've got different size paintings, they need to be still on the same level according to the height. So you need to, it's a lot of mathematics involved. I'm terrible at maths. So, we also have the bigger questions, like, we don't want to make decisions based on money, but we have to be realistic because we have bills to pay. Line, right? Sure. So we want to focus on letting people have because we were going to do an exhibition of our own at the start of the year, and we wanted to do like a really big exhibition, and we were looking at galleries around Busan just before we decided to open our own, and the cost was just like,
give us how much about?
I mean, a week would have cost us something like 1.6 million won.
Whoa,
just for 1 week, just to get the space, and then we would have to pay for everything else after that, like framing and printing and whatever else, So
a few grand.
Oh yeah, easily. And we were getting funding from some city organizations, but that wouldn't have even touched the sides. Like, it wouldn't have covered even the rent of getting these spaces. So we want to make sure that our space is available, because at the end of the day, like, it's the same problem a lot around the world, or in the places that I've been, or in countries I've lived in or visited. Rich people can afford to do art. you know, very easily.
Sure, luxury.
And they've got the luxury of being able to have the comfort, the safety net of having, you know, wealthy parents or whatever. And, you know, it's sort of excluding a whole lot of people. And to be honest with you, like, I'm interested in anybody's ideas or anybody's inspirations or whatever, but do I want to listen to someone who's grown up in an air-conditioned apartment, who's never been woken up 20 times a night by mosquitoes? Or do I want to listen to somebody who's, you know, spent every day getting out and working in a factory or something?
Sure,
you know, like, you want to hear a diversity of voices.
Yes, of course.
You know what I mean? So we want to make sure that we're able to offer our space for a reasonable price. But then you're kind of sitting there going, well, how do you pay the rent? You know what I mean? Because you're not going to have exhibitions every day of the month. You know what I mean? So those kind of things, like, they just come into it. We haven't changed our central ethos of what we're trying to do, but definitely sort of operationally you kind of adjust slightly. Do we do one-off events? We have done a few. Do we only do exhibitions? Do we...
Can I ask, in comparison to a similar space in Busan for a showing, what would the difference in prices be? If that was $1,500 for a week, how much can you guys afford to do it for?
So we do like 450
so significantly
for a week.
Significantly less.
Which is a lot less. Yeah.
And people have access to different funding in the community, or no? In Busan, or no?
There's funding available, like, because we don't want just like this is not just for the foreign community.
Sure.
You know, we want to get Korean artists, because we want to bridge between. So we want Korean art lovers to see foreign artists and vice versa.
Right.
There is funding available. My feeling would be that a lot of it would be only available to Korean people, because, you know, just visa status and that kind of thing. There is, you know, if you're doing an exhibition here and you're from another country, you might be able to get funding from your home.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're supposed to interview that Cordula Yolanda. I don't know where she came from, but we were introduced to her through a Korean friend, and she has like a 6-month art stay or something here. You should look into something like that. Like,
yeah, she's doing a residency maybe.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. Do you know who she is?
I don't know the name.
Okay.
No.
But is that a known thing here, where international artists come over, they do a residency?
I met a guy called Matthew Newkirk. He's from Australia. He was doing a residency. There's Hong Ti Art Centre in Busan near Darepo. There's residencies there. Also, very important person. Do you know Anna Bondarenko?
No.
She's Russian. She's a Russian artist, but she runs a studio called Naughty Muse in Songjeong in Busan, and she has started doing residencies here. So people from other countries can apply and come here to do a residency for a month, or I think for the time being she's just started. So
how does that work out financially? The Korean government pays her to host them?
No. She would offer use of the studio and accommodation for the artist to come, and basically it's an affordable way for an artist to basically live somewhere different and for them to do their work, but they would have to pay for their own flights and other incidental costs. But I mean, it's a great opportunity for people, like you know, anyone. Do you have listeners from like all around the world?
Oh, dude, this millions.
Millions. Wow. So that's the thing. Like, imagine if you've got any kind of art practice anywhere in the world, and you just say, okay, I can go to Naughty Muse studio, and she's got so many different kinds of equipment to use, printmaking and painting, blah, 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 and she does classes up regularly and stuff. You could come here for a month, just work on one project, stay. I think the accommodation's in Haeundae, you know, and then the idea eventually would be that we would kind of work together and we would exhibit the work that the artist made, you know,
during that time.
And you know,
the artist isn't required to work at the gallery. They don't have to like teach classes or
no, they can if they want, you know, like that would be. I think that's because a lot of artists, if they were coming to do something like that, they would want to, I think,
get more involved.
Exactly. And
Well, I remember in high school, Mom and Dad said, you got to apply for every grant, every bursary, every scholarship. And I was like, but it says it's only for Northern Irish guys. She says, yeah, but there's no Northern Irish guys at your school, so Italy's close enough, so apply for it and, connect with your Italian roots and say it's close to Ireland. And if they might say, hey, you know what, we didn't have anyone this year, sure.
Yeah.
You wanted to have it. And we're finding out through our organization, there's money all over the place. You have to kind of know how to go about accessing it. But there is funding and there is money and pockets of money in many, many different places where you can kind of, if you slip into the right place at the right time, you might run into some really good opportunities.
Yeah, and you're right, because governments have budgets for different arts or culture events, and they'll, if they don't spend that, they'll probably waste it, because if they come under budget, then they're going to lose that money next year. So they'll just do whatever they can. So I know that, like, for us, we're in Suyeonggu in Busan, so Suyong Kuchong, they'll do funding, and then there's Busan Munhwa Jedan who also do funding. So if you're, and it's multiculturalizing very quickly. There's so many foreigners coming now, and the decreasing birth rate. I mean, it's a great time to be trying to move into that kind of space, because their hands are tied. They have to start supporting it because it's happening naturally regardless. So. Yeah, and the younger generation as well, they're coming here. Like whenever I came here, I didn't have a clue a lot about anything, but the younger generation are coming here and they're going into universities and they're learning the language even before they arrive. So these guys, they're in the right wave of people who will be able to take advantage of all this stuff. And as you say, it's about just kind of looking around and seeing what's available.
One of the coolest residencies I've seen, has nothing based on skill, but in Scotland there's a bookstore. Have you seen this? No. They got a bookstore, and for everyone who's dreamed of owning a used bookstore and just kind of living that life, you can rent it. It's a minimum 1 week stay, and you can go in, and the bookstore is yours. That's your, like, you stay on the second floor, like you live on the second floor. If you want to open it, you open it. You want to close it, you move books here, change the price, do whatever you want. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. Sorry, that's because you reminded me as well. Like, I remember there's a very, very famous bookstore in Paris, Shakespeare Company or something, and they have I don't know whether it's still, like, I was there 10, 15 years ago, but it was a residency that they had as well. I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe it was just artists could stay there, but it was the same second floor. You stay there above the bookshop, and you're living in Paris for however long, probably for a pittance.
Pretty cool, man.
That's funny. I've had a couple of students who mentioned that bookshop or whatever. I was like, a bookshop? How do you know about one bookshop in Paris?
It's mega famous.
Like, and then I started looking into it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where people go in, buy one book just to get the bag. And they'll have that plastic bag on their shoulder for the next 5 years or something.
When you guys decided to open the space, was it more? Did you think of it more of a as a hobby or a business? I know you touched on it a little bit in the money making stuff, but when you thought about it the first time, what did you envision it as?
Oh, definitely.
Was it kind of just break even, provide the space, get connected, get involved, or is there an element of we want to make something out of it too and make it business?
Definitely business. Yeah. Like 100%. Because of the nature of our life together, my wife and I, I need to have a job, visa wise, most importantly. But for us, we wanted to make sure that we had a space that was a potential future for us. As I say, we might end up moving abroad, and it would be much better for both of us if we had experience doing this.
Right.
But even if we stay here, it would be kind of our long-term goal to maybe move away from...
Transition out of teaching.
Exactly, move away from having to rely on that, because it's a good job and it affords me a lot of free time, and, it's a regular salary, not a particularly good salary, but we know all about that. But it gives me the time and space to be able to do the business with less risk. But eventually we'd want to sort of go full in on that. to
That's
do it
good.
full-time.
And yeah, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. I think early in a business, if you're worried about money, man, that's going to really narrow your focus on what
if it's not seen as a business, I think you feel guilty about raising the prices or this guy's my friend, I got to give him a break. Or like when guys open bars, and he's like, well, you got to pay.
Yeah.
I know we're friends, but it's my bill. I got to pay the bills, and you're here every night. I can't just give you free drinks every night.
Yeah.
But if you open it as a business, then I think the mindset's a little bit different. Where hey, it's a business, and we got to pay, and we got to make something. And
yeah, and that's been honestly one of the more difficult things we've had to deal with, because initially, of course, like all our friends are coming to visit, and they're wanting to support us, and we want them to come, but sometimes it's going into a gallery is not the most natural place for them to go. And there have been sort of...
you got some crazy friends, too?
Yeah, well, I'll say nothing. No names. But
you said we can drink soju while we're looking, right?
Right, exactly. Like, there's a little bit of tension there where you're kind of like...
Boys.
I don't want to confront you, but maybe don't walk around with an open can inside.
No shotgunning beers.
But this is why you wanted the experience. If you go to Europe, these are all the hang in the pictures and the beer cans, and that's all part of it.
Yeah, well,
you learn from all that, right?
There's no doubt that the thing that you learn most about when you run the business is people.
Yeah,
forget about all the economics and finance of it. You learn so much about people. You're like, you go to cafes and stuff and you see signs and it says like no kids, no dogs, no blah, blah, blah. And you're like, why are they doing that? People know how to handle themselves. And then you start running the business and you're like,
I see.
Okay.
So what's on your side?
There's a really...
No casa, no haite?
No, there's a really... there's a hotel in South Korea. I don't know if it's in Busan. But one of my students told me about it, and they said the guy literally, he has a list of like 150 things, like no tattoos, no black socks, no fucking running shoes, no this. And his place is famous because of that. And he'll call you out. He's like, no, you can't stay here. You can't stay here. It's only like the person who fits in this box.
I mean, black socks are terrible, right? I'm wearing them.
I told my students no pajamas for the final exam. They got to present. I said no hoodies, no big black padding jackets, no caps, no masks, no pajamas. And they're like, yeah, you're not coming up here for a final exam presentation and wearing pajamas. Like, come on.
Yeah. I had someone...
I don't know if I'm old school or the bad guy. Or they're like, what the hell's he talking about? Like, listen, I've seen this every semester for years. And these guys showing up in their pajamas with a mask and a hat. I'm like, no, this is not right.
Yeah, same. Absolutely the same.
Oh.
I mean, I suppose, we don't have a huge list of no-nos or anything. Like, our general rule is just be cool. Yeah, not yet. Anyway, we're only a couple of months. But the one thing is, and...
Cool is subjective.
Absolutely. Shotgun. But, unfortunately, the reality of our situation is we're in a quite... I mean, Suyeong-gu is the oldest, age demographic in the whole city, and Busan is a pretty old city, So there's a lot of old people, and there's not a lot of foreigners who are living in the area that we're at. We're over beside, there's like a park there and a market and stuff. And unfortunately, just the very fact that we're sort of foreign run and operated, and then also there are a lot of foreigners coming, it draws a lot more attention to us. So if there was a Korean man standing outside a business smoking and drinking a can of beer, let's say, nobody would pay any attention. But automatically, if that happens to us, so then we're kind of in that awkward position as the owners where we're like, okay, we need to keep the neighborhood cool, we need to keep the other businesses cool, and we need to keep our friends cool. So we kind of have to say, like, I know it sucks and it shouldn't be this way, but it is this way. We're representing our business and representing, we want to.
But it's also part of a community, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have that at home, and people bitch and whine about it at home. Take your stuff back to your country. Get this out of my. Well, it's about kind of living harmoniously. You gotta give and take and compromise on some of these things. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the way we see it. We're sort of, we want to present we want to just be good people. Good people in the area, and we want to make sure that local people feel comfortable coming into us. We want to make sure that people don't just see it as like, oh, that's some expat thing or that's some foreigner thing. We want to have a mix of people coming in, and there has been a really good mix of people so far.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Usually for the bars down here, usually I think it was lots of foreigners at first, and then the slow mixing, and then whatever the new bar opens, and it ends up being lots of Koreans. But
tell us a little bit about the actual space and the opening hours and what goes on there. How much time do you spend there? When's it open?
Yeah, it changes a lot actually, just because if we have an exhibition, what we would hope to do is have it open from 11 until about 6 or 7 p.m. So 11 in the morning until 6. But then we don't have exhibitions all the time. So the best way to know when it's open is just to keep, follow the Instagram or Facebook page, or, check the website, and then we'll update. So we'll put the hours that we're open as and when we have an exhibition. So that's the best way to just find out.
Is that other art spaces, is that typical 11 to 6? I just think people maybe want to go after work or something. Are some open till 8, 9 o'clock, or 11 to 6? I would never be able to get there.
Yeah.
Is that normal?
It depends. It really depends, because I think every art space, they're so different. Like, an art museum, for example, like they're typically Monday off, and then Tuesday until Sunday they'll be like 9 until maybe 6 or 7. Some places will stay open later. We have one-off events that are on later, and then the idea would be, if we have those one-off events, like yesterday we have a thing called Drink and Draw, where you just come and hang out, and they're really fun. And then we've got an exhibition at the same time. So what we hope is, people who are coming for one thing will see the other thing. So if we have a movie night, we had a series of movie nights a month ago, 4 in a row on as a series of films, to kind of connected by a theme. And people who are interested in film, they might not necessarily want to come and see paintings, but they come to see the film and the paintings are there. And they'll check it out and sort of, have a bit of cross-pollination maybe.
I like that multi-use of the space. Not just one-dimensional.
It was important for us to make sure that we were trying to diversify as much as possible, because I've got loads of interests. I'm interested in a lot of different stuff. So the hours for us, it's kind of dictated by what we have, and then also both of us are working our own things.
I think that's kind of attractive too, that it's not 9 to 5. We open at this time and close at this time every day. Like that, for a younger generation, or maybe like not a typical the 9 to 5 worker, like that's pretty cool. Like, oh, let's go here, oh, it's closed, that makes you want to go next time.
Hopefully.
I think and I think the building a business these days, it's not just open the doors and hope they come. Like, you have to, it's the same with all social media stuff, like you got to build your audience, and like you have to work with. So when
if there's an exhibition there, then the artist, you go and open it in the morning, artist is there, and then you go check in at night, or what are your guys' regular responsibilities there?
So the business model would be typically that the artist would rent the space. So for example, we've got a couple of young Korean artists who are going to have an exhibition starting on the 14th of December. And so we rent them the space, and basically it's their space, So rather than them having to take on the financial burden of owning a gallery for a year or 2 years, they just rent it for 2 weeks, and then they'll open it, they'll close it. We did an exhibition. The first exhibition we did was, we were part of it as artists ourselves, but it was a group exhibition, and then we would divide it amongst the people. So we were there a lot, obviously, and opening and closing, but then the artist would have a responsibility. And I think it's good as well, because then the artist's there, and people can come visit and talk to the artist about the work,
So the artist isn't going in there and like smashing holes in the wall, hanging their own shit?
We help them with it, but if they want to do it themselves, they can. And
then you got to patch it up. And
that's what you have to do. Yeah.
Is that, really?
Yeah. So
but that's expected. That's normal.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we've got like MDF walls. You'll hang the painting. You'll make a load of holes, and there's holes in the roof. There's holes in the walls, and then you've got like a little putty thing. You just cover it, paint over it. Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, if you look closely, because from a distance, you got these typical white cube galleries, which is what ours looks like. It's kind of a European style
Yeah, like a
gallery.
L
it's,
kind of shape.
You know, whenever you imagine a gallery, this is what it looks like. And, you know, thankfully nowadays it's diversifying a lot. But anyway, you look at a white wall and from a distance you don't even notice. But if you're in any gallery anywhere, you look closely, you'll see all the little holes covered
Good from
over.
far from good.
Yeah.
So when you have something like that, an exhibition for a week or whatever, is that like, whew, we don't have to do anything this week? This is date week or
No.
or do you prefer more hands-on when it's kind of like 1 day, 2 days, but you're coming and going? Or is it nice to get that break? Someone takes it for 10 days or something and you just chill?
Well, so far we haven't. This upcoming exhibition in December, that's going to be the first time that someone else is really going to go in for that. We've had an exhibition this past week. Guy Kenneth May has had an exhibition of Stephen Stoller paintings. He's a New York artist, and various other photographs and things related to a performance he did last Saturday. But he's been manning the gallery this week. But we still have to, you know, we still have to deal with a lot of stuff. We still need to go and check stock. We still need to go and make sure that everything's fine. So I think with, especially a new business, there's not a moment that I'm awake and sometimes asleep, as previously mentioned, that I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're always thinking about how can I improve it? How can I do something to make it
good.
better?
That's
you know?
good though, yeah.
So I would say, I don't know. I would be surprised if there was a small business owner who was having any date nights.
No, that's good though, man. I think it sounds you really, you and the wife are passionate about it, so I don't think burnout is going to be a factor in a year or two.
Yeah.
Even if you're really focused on it, that's awesome, man.
You mentioned drink and draw. Is that right? Drink and draw?
That's right, yeah.
What's the other one? Paint and
Dude, he's got free wine.
drink. And,
You didn't know? Eh? They got free wine over
I
there.
mean, that's it. That's what you want, right?
yeah. Can I ask how much it is?
So drink and draw, you pay 10,000. As my wife organizes that, so I'm sorry if I'm
You
wrong.
pay 10,000 and get
You
free
pay
wine?
10,000, and it's not alcohol necessarily. You know, we've got different drinks, and so yeah, you pay, you get a drink, you sit, you meet a load of people, and the cool thing about it is there's been people coming who are just traveling. So there was a French lady who came the last time we did it, and last night we had a Norwegian guy and a Belgian lady who came, and they were just passing through, and there was someone from another country, I can't remember what country, but she was living in Busan for a month, she's going to Jeju, and she just found it hard to meet people. And so this is a kind of event where she was able to go like, oh shit, yeah, let me go to this. And she's
Like you say though, everybody's not out looking to party and stay up till 4 a.m. and
Yeah.
it's just a different way to meet people. It's great. So how many people would you typically get for a drink? Because doesn't County Moorhead do them here? They used to have them at Hal's place. Someone used to do them at Hal's place for a bit. I've seen them once or twice here in the last little while. But how many people would you typically get for one of those?
I think both times we've done it, there's been sort of 14, 15 people.
So it's a good crew.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
And what other kind of? Tell us more about the stuff that you have going on there. Exhibitions.
Yep.
Drink and draw.
So we've done the movie nights, as I mentioned.
That was Sunday nights for a while?
That was Sunday night,
Or is that ongoing?
We did it for a month. We're sort of thinking about doing it again. It's it was good, but I'm not sure. You know, we're sort of trying to just establish exactly what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah. So when you're doing like drink and draw or movie nights, is that this month we have these times that nobody's in the space, so we'll just try some new stuff, start some new stuff?
Throwing some ideas at the wall, see what's...
But I mean, when you do that, is that kind of just getting people in, or because $10 to come and hang out sounds like too cheap? I don't. It doesn't sound like a moneymaker.
It's
So is that to get people in, get them aware of the space, talking about the space, get them familiar?
I think what we want is, you know, I think the main sort of business that we want to establish is the exhibition stuff, but we also want to break down. I think there's a lot of maybe gatekeeping or a lot of unfamiliarity with art and art galleries, and we want to break that down and sort of make it a bit more of a kind of community space. And so if we do these little events, and as you say, like, it doesn't make us money really at all. But we get people in the door and they're aware of us. And as I say, you know, there's that cross-pollination. If they're interested in one thing, they stick around for the other thing. And sort of, you know, it's about breaking those barriers down and also sort of seeing what works for us, what works for the space, what is good and what isn't. So like last Saturday we had, we've done sort of 2 spoken word events. And again, that was Kenneth May did his spoken word event last Saturday, which is really cool because we put up the exhibition. There's books, newspaper clippings, poems, paintings. And then in the midst of that, there was a couple of poets, Manti, who's a South African poet who lives up in Seoul, a guy called Aaron Dix, who's a Busan poet, and then Kenneth did the main piece. And the acoustics in the space are quite nice. And then while Kenneth was doing his performance, there's a musician called Gordon Bazali who played trumpet. He's a really excellent professional musician. And he's playing trumpet in between these little chapters of a memoir. And it was just amazing, you know, to be in the space and experience it. We previously did another spoken word event, which was really nice. So then we're thinking, we hear the music and we're thinking, okay, well, maybe we could get not like bands playing, but some acoustic musicians. We know Gino Brand, who's
he wrote Estrada's
song.
Dude, that's such a killer hook in that song.
And actually, speaking of that, we had Ryan Estrada. So there was in America, they were doing a performance based on Banned Book Club, his graphic novel.
Oh, that's so
awesome. I think in like Portland or something. So we live streamed that to the gallery, and everyone had a viewing party there in the middle of the day. And Gino, you know, he didn't perform in the event, but you know, they played the video of his performance. And so, you know, like, we have the space, and it's as much about us being able to put our ideas in there as people in the community. So if anybody had an idea where they were just like, what if we did like a video projection with a soundscape behind it? Come and do it. Let's talk about it. Let's try and do it. You know,
I like all those little cool ones. I mean, didn't sound boring, but when you have the exhibition for a week, it's kind of okay, well, it's just fixed. But I like all these little cool things that kind of get all kinds of different people excited or into the space.
Yeah, me too. That's what I'm into.
I was talking to a friend at home, one of my good buddies, and he was saying, I don't know if he got tired of the gym, but he started going to like some other, what does Al do there? F45. Whatever.
P50,
whatever. He tried some new like CrossFit shit like this, and then he's like, "Oh man, now I'm into this." I think it's similar to the sound thing that you do, sound bath,
yeah.
But his had like some smells and stuff too, and he'd go and it's like a meditation class plus this plus that, and I think his job sometimes gets pretty stressful, and he's like, "Man, it's like." 30 minutes of heaven, and he looks forward to it every week. And can you talk about that sound bath?
So
just before that, I have a bunch of Nepalese students at the college here, and I try and like this, you know, it's work, sleep, school, work, sleep, sleep. Like, that's not a healthy balance. You got to get out. You got to find, I don't know, but you're not all exactly the same. You're just by coincidence friends because you're the same age, the same, and you're here. But surely you all have different passions. And if it's cricket or if it's dancing or whatever, I can just point you and connect you to people. So I always try and highlight and push them out into these different areas. And I put, not knowing that you were coming, I put that thing out and I said, listen, unfortunately, there was a student who committed suicide in the summer, going through lots of, you know, self-healing and stuff. And I said, this is a Nepalese guru or whatever they are. And I said, yeah, it's $22. Hey, sometimes you spend the $22 and it's worth it. And you go, holy shit, that was amazing. Anyway, so I posted it all over our things. And then he said, hey, this Niall's coming around. Well, I've
seen that name
That was
before.
the thing that was I posted for the kids last week, and I was like, "Wow!" So, anyways,
synchronicity.
Let's hear about it.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, it was. You know, you've made a really good point there, because to me, community, especially whenever you're far away from your home without your your immediate family around you, it can be very difficult and very stressful. And the thing that kind of got me through any struggles that I had in that area was having a community and having connections and meeting people. And, one of the first things that we talked about here sitting down was, oh, you've been here a long time, I've been here a long time. Who do we know?
Yeah.
And then it's easy. You just start throwing out names and then you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy, he does this and that guy. That. And so through a guy I know called Leo, he just mentioned you're doing these one-off events. I've got a friend who he's all this guy Anil. He's done a couple of these sound bath events in Busan already, and he's looking for a space to do another one. So he put me in touch. We messaged back and forth, and basically, so it's Wednesday coming, the 11th, and it starts at 7 p.m. So he's coming over from Nepal. And he really believes how important and powerful this practice is. So he's going to come. He's going to do the actual sound bath. He uses those singing bowl
Did I see
things.
Laura McLucky was doing that for a while,
Yeah,
I saw that
I think they might have been doing it through Busan Wellness or something.
Yeah.
I think he's done it in Kaizen, the yoga studio as well.
Okay.
And then he's going to stick around and sort of talk a little bit about his practice and do a Q&A and maybe teach people a little bit. And, it is, again, just we've got the empty space and people come with an idea and let's do that because that's something that's going to benefit people. And it's something that you're, as you said, everything's available to you. There are lots of things available to you, but if we can make that a little bit easier and a little bit more accessible for people, then I think that's that's going to benefit people a lot. Isn't
so cool, man.
Please bring yoga mat, blanket, pillow, and water.
Yeah,
sounds pretty relaxing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is one of the benefits for me is I'll be able to go there and sort of I have to be there anyway.
So is he coming for other things as well, or he's just coming just for this?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe, I don't know.
Huh.
I don't think it's going to be just for this event.
No,
I wouldn't have thought, but I'm not sure.
So how do you broker that kind of or set up that arrangement between this? You said one of your friends put you in contact with him, but
so we just have we've got a contract, a standard contract for events. So if somebody has an idea, then we'll give them the contract and they can check out the details, and then we just arrange from there. So it's fairly flexible.
Is it, something like this, if he's coming, that's why I assume he's doing other stuff, but is there you need a minimum of 15 people to make it
No. So if
worth my while to come, or
if because it's his event, so he's again he's just renting the space off us.
Okay.
So he pays us for the space.
Yeah.
We'll help him with
logistics,
the mechanics and setting it up and promoting.
Yeah.
But it's very much his event.
Okay.
So
that's a nice clean way to do it. Just kind of. We have a market coming up, and I was talking to many of the things we do through We Hope. It's you get some funding from the government, or the government will give you $1,000 to run a booth, but you have to give the food away for free, or they'll subsidize $200 if it rains out. It covered your cost. Now you can give food away for free to your friends because we don't have the event. But this Christmas one we have coming up next week on Saturday.
Ryan's coming.
Is he speaking at it?
Oh no, he's got a booth. He's
cool.
selling his books. Yeah.
But if you sell, great. If you don't, sorry. But it's nice for us. There's no responsibility. It's just, and on the other hand, if they come and they make too little of whatever they're bringing, and they're sold out in the first hour, then we're like, so it's maybe a little more risky. But it's nice not to have to micromanage and worry about, do this, don't do this, don't do that. Because it's our butts on the line, but this is kind of do what you want, sell what you want, and charge what you want. But sometimes we have to tell them nothing more than 3,000, nothing more than 5,000 at some of these government-sponsored events.
But that was trial and error too. We had the first year the original markets at Sticky Fingers, where it was a $10 buy-in, $10 to rent the table, and then after you're same thing. You didn't sell, and then we went to you can make a donation if you want. Now it's just just do it for free, and if you sell it, you sell it. If not,
But it's funny, like people say, how much is a table? Nothing. Just come and make a good event for everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely, those intricacies are difficult. We've done a couple of book fairs here. There's a big book fair in Busan called Mouse Book Fair. And the guy who runs it, at the first time I did it, I didn't know anything about the guy who ran it, but he's just like, he runs his own amazing little bookshop down in Nampodong. Like there's Bosudong.
I was there last Saturday.
Yeah, so there's a place there called Peace Kind Home, and it's a Korean guy who runs this place, and he set up the book fair, and it's huge. In Somyeon, there's Sangsang Madang. It's this huge building that does a lot of events, and he set it up, and we paid for a table, and then it is just that you pay for the table. They did a lot of work to help us out, make the experience nice, and they provide like a kind of small lunch and stuff. But you're kind of thrown into the mix, and it's just like sink or swim. What are you trying to do? For me, it was a hard sell, because I think there was me and one other foreigner there, and I'm trying, like, my photography practice is fine art photography, and I made a book about the Korean War, like traces of the Korean War in the present day. And I was trying to explain that to these customers, but a lot of these customers, just these 20-year-old couples coming through looking for, comics about cats. And I'm sitting there going, Korean War book interest you at all? And it's just like, no.
Very niche.
Yeah, but it's good experience. But working out those details, like same as you said, like it's trial and error, really.
You said too, once you open the space, a lot of people will come at you with different ideas. And for this market here, man, who's the vendor you're looking forward to seeing?
Bicycle Bob.
Dude.
Bicycle Bob?
No, I don't know. That's what he calls it. Dude, this guy's bringing a bicycle.
Italian guy.
No. He's Korean, but spent time in Italy. And he's the bicycle latte.
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
I know him. Dude, I don't know him, but there's a makgeolli place called Union Station that just opened in Busan, and Bicycle Bob came and they've got a bicycle slushy machine.
Yes.
Dude. A makgeolli slushy.
Oh, yeah, man. It's incredible.
So you get on it, you cycle.
He's going to be doing, I think he'll be doing hot drinks this time, but it's hilarious.
Cool.
What? And again, we had no idea who he was, but you open the event, you invite one person, and it's like, oh, how about this guy?
Studio Futuro.
Futuro, yeah.
Does he have a studio?
Future studio.
Korean USA.
Might be.
Yeah. Oh, that's
pumpkin latte made with a juice cycle.
That's so awesome.
Studio Futuro.
I told him the only way our common friend is the only way he can come is if I'm allowed to ride the bike. Okay. He's in.
Get a little generator hooked up and, get the electricity going through the machine.
Do you know, what's it, 4-hour energy? 8-hour energy? Like those little drinks they used to sell in the marts? It was massive for a while, but the guy who started that, he became like a billionaire. And then he, like, with all his money, he's like, all right, we're going to make some crazy shit. So he hired a bunch of engineers. And he had one engineer who made a bicycle. And I think if you drove it for like 2 hours every morning, you could like basically power you can't cook a turkey with the energy, but you could like basically power most of your house for a day.
Wow.
Oh man, I gotta find that guy's.
That's such a good idea though. Oh, because people want to do the exercise anyway.
Yeah. I need one of those, man.
Cool.
Would something like a networking night or a meet and greet night, is that something that wouldn't fit in the space? Or I'm picturing like the high tables, wine, because I know Busan had a couple people that were really good at organizing some of these business or meetups of. Again,
what Kessler was talking about, a gorilla.
Marta and wasn't her name Marta?
The
Jay and Marta.
Yeah.
But those kind. But I think like here the bar is kind of too bar-y, and if they tried to do it, or it seems kind of fake maybe, or not. I mean, I would pay $20 to go and have real conversations with real. Not 2 shots. It just goes downhill so fast, and you can say it or you can pretend it. But I think one of the best kind of networking events I was at the Canadian Embassy. I do some work as a warden, but they brought all the wardens from around the whole country, and don't be an idiot.
Yep.
It's a thing like, okay, don't one shot a beer, don't shotgun. They got Molson Canadian, Moosehead, they got wine, all your Canadian snacks. Like, it's a deadly event. But don't be an idiot. Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
And it was so nice to just have a casual drink and talk to so many interesting people from all. The one guy was the voice of Acai TV commercials here. He's a voice actor, but guys from all over the different regions of the country, and everybody did something cool.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking of like a space like that here. It doesn't exist. You couldn't do it here, where you bring people that have creative minds and ideas and want to do stuff, and you don't wear your jeans or your sweatpants. I don't mean to make that exclusive kind of club, but something that's actual meaningful. Like I'll pay to go to meet real people, to make good connections, and maybe get something out of it. Would something like that I don't know, how big is the space? Is it kind of, are you open to anything, or does it have to be related to somehow connected, or?
No, literally. So the space size-wise it's about 100 square meters.
Pretty big.
So sizable. Yeah. Sizable. And what we actually, the Naughty Muse studio, Anna, like, she's an amazing person. She did something like that. So it was basically an artist, any artist. It was a taco meet and greet. So there's Pendejo tacos in Busan.
I thought you were going to say Tyler.
Or was it?
Bicycle bike, taco bike, bicycle bike.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Taco bike.
Is it taco bike or burrito bike? Burrito bike. Yeah.
BB.
It might have been. Was it them? I don't know. I can't remember the taco place. Sorry, but anyway, they had this event where you would come and meet and greet people, and you had all these different like film people, painters, photographers. Everybody came together. In her studio, which is a lot bigger than our place, and it was great, as you say. That's the kind of thing. Like, the good thing about, you start something and then it kind of snowballs and you start meeting other people, and instead of it just being like, I meet somebody on the street, or not on the street, but like, I meet somebody and be like, oh, I'm just an English teacher, and then they're like, okay, cool, and that's the end of the conversation. But oh, I'm a gallery owner, I've got a gallery space. Oh, really? No way. And then you start kind of connect, and then you get ideas from those people as well. So at this point, it hadn't occurred to me to do something like that. Yeah. But, there's no reason why we couldn't do it at all.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to open one here.
Because there's BIF, obviously, every year. Yeah, and then there's also BISF, which is the Busan International Short Film Festival. My friend Sebastian Simon, he's French guy, but he's one of the kind of programmers of that, and he's been doing it for a long time, like 10, 11 years. And he, whenever they have the event, they'll have like the kind of opening and closing, just the same as BIF. And that's where you get all these, especially like the last couple of years after COVID, filmmakers from Taiwan and, Europe and America and all sorts of countries, like coming to Busan, and you're meeting them and having like, just sitting having a proper chat with them, like at some nice venue, and you're drinking wine, and it's a little bit kind of like
fancy,
la-di-da, but it's amazing because, like you say,
but it's a good change from the come back
shots.
Like, we've done that for years and years, and I'm not looking for the la-di-da, but some of those things I am looking for. I don't go out that much anymore because I don't want that wild ruckus that we did for 10 years, 15 years already. So,
right.
And I'd be willing to spend a little bit more if it's the Lotte Hotel ballroom meet and greet, whatever it is. But yeah, those things just don't exist so frequently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, dude. I got to open one here. That's it seems. I don't think it's easy to do or to run, and it's going to take some time to get its feet. But
it's not easy, but it is a joy.
Yeah,
it's a joy.
We talked. I think after we interviewed Ali, we were talking. We were talking about life and work and whatever. But I asked him the question, like, how to sit there when Ali came, it'll be the same for this. Like, how much would you pay for that experience? To invite someone in, sit down, we're not looking at our phones, it's not in the setting bar. Like, it's a very valuable experience. It's very satisfying when I have to edit this later, re-listening to it and going like, oh, same thing, getting new ideas and then new perspective on stuff. It's cool. And what you're saying about even that sound bath thing, you're hosting that, man. You're bringing the people in. Do you ever just step back and be like, I did that. I'm at the center of this whole thing.
Because that's the most rewarding part of it. For me, it's just, we have those opening nights. Those are the best nights. Like, I love the opening night of an exhibition. We've done sort of 3 proper exhibitions so far, and you're busy. You're running around doing this, picking this up, and like building up to it. You're really nervous. But at some point, you just kind of stop and take a step back and look around and go, all of these people are here because of me. I mean, their own volition, obviously, but I've brought these people together to do something really positive and different and amazing. And it's just like, it's the kind of connection, because the other thing is, there's a lot of people that I would know. I thought beforehand, I know a lot of people in the expat community, but Busan is so big and wide that there are people who live out in Dokjeon, for example, and they just hang out with themselves. And then there's people who are, similar age to me and a bit older, like I'm 41, and this is a kind of point where I'm like, I need to, be a bit more focused and whatever. And there's people who are like that, who just aren't interested, and then there are younger people, as I said earlier, who are also not interested in just going out and drinking and partying and stuff. And whenever you have those people, like, wow, there's 50 people in here who I never met before, and I never would have met if we didn't do this event. That's amazing. It's
cool, and you never know who's going to show up too. Our last year's Christmas party, a couple people came up like, do you remember me? We worked together 10 years ago. We're like, oh, or whatever, 15 years ago. And at that time, we were completely different people. And then you look, you're like, oh, we're both.
Didn't the vice mayor or somebody come last year?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Well, he had a friend visiting, and he called before, like, I'm coming in. Is that okay? Yeah. He had some foreign lady with him.
Wow,
that was
cool.
But it is good to. It's a good feeling, and then you step back and you go, if everybody did this with what they love doing. Man, there'd be so much to do. There'd be so many cool things. And, if you're only doing galleries or exhibitions on your own, maybe it's once a year you and your wife go. But now you don't even have to do it. You just have to organize it, and you get that cool feeling and stuff. Like, my daughters have some concerts or recitals or whatever, and those are big events for them. But if you had the space and you got to watch that all the time, it's like, wow, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Where are you guys at in terms of kind of growth and maybe awareness in the community and stuff? Is Arise Art Space pretty well known?
Wait till this drops.
How is the progress in the building of kind of the brand or the space gone so far? The publicity you've gotten? Are you on the news? Are you in the magazines?
It's hard to know. I would say so. I was on BFM, the English radio station, a few weeks ago. So that's gone out. But you don't know like who's listening or how many people are listening. You've no idea. We obviously were through social media. I would say enough people in the kind of expat community are aware of us, and that's kind of been building, like noticeably building, because as I say, like people are coming who I never heard of or never met, but there would be times whenever you'd meet somebody and you'd say, oh, I've heard your name through like Facebook suggested friends or something like that. But now there are people who are coming and it's like, I've never even, our networks are so distant that I have no idea. And then obviously you guys like through Ali, so that kind of connection helps. It's hard to estimate because again, it's still early days. It's hard to estimate exactly how well known.
Probably after a year.
But is it going as planned? Is it better than you thought?
It's so much better than I thought.
Yeah, awesome.
And we this year I was also involved in a program to teach storytelling through different artistic mediums. So it was a program it was called Golden Lens, and it was through an organization called COAB, which is like Coalition of Artists in Busan, which I'm part of. And we set up this program to teach storytelling through performance, through visual arts, through photography, and through video. So I was teaching the photography component, but it was specifically for older Korean people. So 50, 60, 70-year-old.
The Golden Lens.
Golden Lens,
cool.
right?
Cool.
And so I taught that for 4 weeks, and most of the students were ladies, but they were like super PhD holders, architects, the leader of the Busan Women's Association, like
Cool.
super accomplished people who would come on a Saturday for like 3 hours. And that was amazing. That experience of teaching was so good. And they've come to some of the exhibitions, and through them, they would invite other people or share the information. And, it's kind of, we're hoping to kind of spread out a little bit more amongst the Korean community. And what we'd love as well, as far as I know, we haven't had any just random people wandering off the street. And that might be something to do with, maybe we need to sort of post more signs. We've got a lot of signs, but maybe we need more signs.
Are you on the first floor?
Second floor.
Second floor.
Yeah. So we're thinking about how we can increase a bit more.
One of those little A signs.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking.
Is there much foot traffic where you are?
Oh yeah, loads. It's a really busy area because like right beside the Suyong Paldo Shijang, so like lots of restaurants are there. People are using it.
Awesome.
Yeah, but it's a lot of older people, and they might not necessarily. It's quite. They might not necessarily think, oh, I want to go look at art. My wife and I are actually doing another exhibition. There's an
exhibitionist.
There's a city run, or like the Suyong district run a gallery called Muin Gallery or something like that. It's like unmanned gallery.
Yeah, Muin.
Yeah, so it's anyone can just go in at any time, 24 hours open, and we're doing the exhibition together. And my wife was in there the other day, and an older guy came in. And so you've seen my wife's art. It's Min the Elephant on Instagram if anyone wants to look. But she's got quite a unusual sensibility, which doesn't quite fit in with the typical Korean art style.
But I had to double check. Like Min, is that a Korean Min? Where is she?
It's Jung Min.
Yeah.
But she was in this unmanned gallery. Contravening the rules of the gallery because it was manned at the time. But anyway, she was in there, and an old guy came in, and he was looking at her paintings, and she's got it's like these lino cut prints that she did, and one of them has a bent, like a crouched down naked woman with mushrooms growing out of her back, and it was representing anxiety related to the COVID pandemic. And the old guy was looking at it, and he was like, "So, do you make a lot of money from this?" And she was like, well, no, not really. And he's like, why are the mushrooms there? Oh, they represent anxiety. You know what? It'd be better if you put flowers. And instead of this naked woman, you put a nice person sitting beside the flowers. So basically he was just like, I want to see a picture of a nice person sitting beside flowers. Completely insulting everything that you've done. But that's, some people want that, and that's fine. That's cool, but
not here.
We want the diversity of experiences and events.
That sounded like Al.
That was a good Al. I don't know his name, man. I don't know the guy's name, but you've seen him he's popped up on YouTube, and he just gives like really solid life advice. I can't remember. He wrote a book about power, 48 Steps of Power or something. Anyways, when he talks about finding your passion or finding your way in life, he says like, man, you just whatever makes you unique. He's like, don't try and be like someone else. Just whatever that weird thing is inside you, like follow that. If it's drawing girls with mushrooms out of their back, he's like, the world needs that.
Yeah.
Like you need that. Not everyone could be the same. You don't want the same shit recycled over and over and over.
Yeah.
Maybe Min's just got to put some mushrooms at the front door there. Yeah. people start
expand the consciousness.
Yeah.
But like it's. I think the thing is, with art, right? I think a lot of people, because one of our main motivations is kind of breaking down the ideas of what art is or what art can be. And I think a lot of people have an idea of like, okay, I can go to a gallery and I can look around, but it's going to be maybe very formal and very quiet, and I have to put my hands behind my back and stroke my chin and walk around slowly and not talk, right? But
pretend you're like, I get it.
I get it. But here's the thing, right? I think the thing is, from day one, art is always, in a lot of countries, I don't know about Canada, but in America, I know, and in Ireland, UK, whenever the government are defunding something in schools, it's art, right?
Sure, kind of the same.
Yeah. So it's devalued and devalued and devalued. It's like, oh, that's a kid's thing. That's what you do whenever you're a little kid. You paint and you draw with your fingers, and then that's it. And then eventually you get older and you see art galleries, but people are a little bit put off by going into them. But the way I would say, the way it is wow, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to hit me, man.
So you just fucking snapped your arm in half.
But what I would say is, right, I like football, right? I wouldn't expect, like, my wife, my wife is not interested in football, right? But I wouldn't expect her to sit down and enjoy football if I didn't start by explaining the rules of football, just from a very basic level. I'm not going to immediately jump in and start talking about the offside rule. I'm going to say the essential point of this game is, it's teams playing against each other, and it's about teamwork and connecting and providing those little moments of inspiration to get that pass or to make that movement, and then, ultimately scoring a goal, right? Nobody is getting that sort of information about art. People are being thrown in with no sort of background information or no education, and just like, okay, that's a gallery, you should go to that. Why are you not going to the gallery? Galleries are cool. But just, on a basic level, art is about somebody having something to tell you and you receiving that information. So you look at a painting, and whether it's, nice flowers, or whether it's a naked woman with mushrooms growing out of her back, it's just the artist trying to tell you something very simple and straightforward about themselves. And all you have to do is look at it and go, oh, okay, like, maybe I get it. And even if you don't get exactly what they're saying, that's fine, And I think people can enjoy art as casually and in as fun a way as they can football. The way my wife doesn't care about football, but if Korea are playing in the World Cup, she's all in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Same if Van Gogh comes to Seoul, everyone's a fan.
Exactly, and you can just go, and it doesn't need to be a big event. It can just be, it's Saturday afternoon, I'm going to go get a coffee, I'm going to walk around a gallery, I'm going to go, hang out with my friends for dinner, and you don't need to worry about it or feel guilty about not understanding anything. It's just, it's there to be, enjoyed, and for somebody just to talk to you. That's what it is. It's just a conversation with somebody, really.
Yeah.
Have you had any exposure to art in youth in Korea? And if so, how do you see that? Just going back to defunding art in Canada, America, the UK, what is your perception of how art is treated here, especially among the youth?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I could use my wife as an example, it's really, unfortunately, I think it's changing. Like a lot of things are changing. Korea's moving forward quite a bit in some areas. But, her experience was she is so naturally talented at it. Like, she's just, the way she can draw 3 or 4 lines and create something that really has personality and meaning is amazing to me. But she was so obviously talented at it. But as I said, she grew up in a really working class neighborhood. Her whole family are not really interested in art, and she was just pushed to do a business degree. And she wanted to do design. But not even that would have been good enough, because they're just thinking like, look, we need you to have a safe future and earn money. So she did a business degree. She started working for a shipping company in Goje for a couple of years, and then she quit that. And she works now, like, occasionally as like an interpreter or a translator, because she's, very fluent in English. And then she's just focusing on her art, right? And my view would be that that's a very similar experience that a lot of people have had. And for younger people, there are art hagwons and music hagwons, but it's treated more as like an extracurricular activity. This will look good on your resume, but as soon as life becomes serious and you're an adult,
Got it.
You're done,
Yeah.
right? Now you're just going to, because I talk to so many of my students at the university and I'm saying like, oh, do you play any instruments? And they're like, yeah, I played piano whenever I was young. And, you know, the focus is, again, like very much on art is something that you can do as like a hobby, but it's not something that people do seriously.
Drink and draw.
Drink and draw. That's the gateway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you have kids?
No.
No. Okay. So I don't know if you share the same views or not, but compared to in Canada, where I mean, you have to go to a specific art school, academy, whatever, and pay usually an arm and a leg. But here with these after-school programs, like at school that are $20 a month or whatever. Man, my kids have been exposed to so many different kinds of art. She brings home pottery, clay pottery stuff every 2 weeks. Cool. She uses it for gifts. And my other daughter is making paper mache. They would never, ever, ever get these experiences in Canada. And I don't know if this will continue on, like you say, once life gets real. But I just value that they've or appreciate that they had the opportunity to be exposed to these things, because in Canada now you don't even have the opportunity. The opportunities aren't even there unless you're well off and you can go pay X amount of $100 a month for a specific drawing, a specific clay, a specific whatever class. But here, man, like the drawings, I find Koreans in general, art, music, singing, they're fantastic. I mean, the average Canadian cannot sing a note to save his life. Go to the norebang here, and you're like, holy shit, man! Like
sometimes
this Korea's got talent, you know, in every norebang room. The instruments, everybody seems to be able to play an instrument.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, because I'm really grateful for the opportunities my kids have here in relation to art, and I don't think they would ever have those in Canada. No,
I agree, and like I said, you know, I don't have kids, and I'm not 100% familiar with exactly how things are, you know, just from my kind of tangential perspective. I think what I've encountered with the kind of adult art community and the Korean art community through different exhibitions or whatever, there can be a bit of sort of, you know, people who are the serious artists. It's like you need to have gone to the right university to build the right connections. But I think that's the same everywhere. You know, what I really hope that it continues, you know, for your kids and for any kids, it goes beyond just like, this is elementary school, you can do it. And then you get to middle school, and then you've got the sunung, and now you have to stop all that. You know, I hope that it continues. And like I say, I think Korea, the beautiful thing about Korea is things can change so quickly. And
martial law.
Contemporary. But we hope that we're part of that sort of movement towards giving underrepresented people an opportunity to be able to express themselves. You know, as I said, like that's what art is all about, just you expressing yourself, just communicating with somebody through whatever medium it is. So I hope it continues for the youth, and you know,
I think here even the parents' mentality to send their kids to every school has right across the street has an art academy, and it's kind of like babysitting, but because it's so cheap. Like the art academies are just, your kid can come anytime. It's not like official start and finish times. There are ones that have that. They're much more serious and much more structured for people who are who want that. But I think these other ones that are kind of like babysitting, but you got kids doing stuff they would never, ever do otherwise. And they produce some really cool stuff. And I can't believe some of the stuff my kids are way better than the stuff I was doing. Stickmen, I still do Stillaman. But they do like full mana shit. Like, I don't know how you do. You know, we didn't have those opportunities.
Yeah, so. Same for me. Like, we had nothing. Nothing.
And they come home and they're like, Dad, that's not... Okay, well, show me. Holy man, how do you know what it is? 2 seconds and you got this whole cartoon thing done is wild. So, I love that part of Korea. There's way more, you know, that, I don't know if it's toxic masculinity, but that rah, 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 you got to play American football and bang and grow the beard and lift weights. And I like that Korea has a little more balance. I wish there was a little more sports for kids, but I take care of that and provide it for mine. But I like the balance in the arts space, because in Canada, I don't think most people would send their kids to an art academy.
Which is not
just
valued.
because. That's what I mean. Like, just that the parents think that that's a good place to go is great.
Yeah, agree.
I teach one lady who has she has an art gallery here. I think her whole family's involved in the art trade and selling and whatnot. And when I visit there, she's so deeply involved in the art world. It drives her crazy when I walk in. I'm like, yo, how much is this? What do you think? I'm like, $13. She's like, no, it's 60 grand. I'm like, but it's just a canvas with like
a banana.
That's
a banana taped on it.
Dude, that's $6.2 million now.
Yeah.
$6.2 million. So, and it's
not even the original banana either.
They change it every day.
I'm going to Arise. I'm going to do the strawberry.
And just recently, I brought up the blue and yellow painting. It's like a yellow stripe, a blue stripe, and a yellow stripe, and it was $46 million or something. I think it's a big canvas, but it's just 3 stripes basically.
Yeah.
And I always ask her, I'm like, what? How is that $46 million? And she said and I always ask about pricing, because it's mind blowing. So like, I'll see your wife's thing and be like, "Wow, that's so original," and you know, I'd pay for that. But these 3 stripes, how could that possibly be $40 million? And she said it's about finding your style and being able to create something that's uniquely yours. Like, it has your signature basically on it. And she said that's why young artists have a hard time becoming huge. She said usually artists in Korea anyways, they become popular later in their life. It has to do lots with their background story. The people who went to the schools and have the perfect educational background wouldn't necessarily fare as well later in life, as opposed to someone who, she had one artist who spent time in his 20s and 30s were in Paris, and people loved the story, and that development over time, you can find your signature, like whatever, we can both paint this wall, but you'll have something that makes it uniquely yours. And once you can really focus on that, or once you can really replicate that, maybe she said that's when people want to start buying your work. And
you know, I've complicated feelings about all of that, because the way that the art market works is very different to what art is in essence, you know. So the art market, basically, there was a point in the past whenever you would have had very rich people, and those were, you know, people who were kings and queens and whatever. You know, there were a lineage of people who were rich, and rich people had all the stuff, and they had all of the expensive portraits and, you know, beautiful paintings on the walls, like frescoes and stuff like that. During the Industrial Revolution, you would have had working class people becoming owners of businesses, factories, and becoming, you know, the nouveau rich. So they're suddenly as wealthy as these kings and queens, but the kings and queens are supposed to be, we're divinely ordained as being people with taste. So how can we separate ourselves from these people who are just coming up from nowhere, right? And what they did was they said, yeah, you can buy anything you want, but we're the only ones who know what good taste is. So effectively, it was kind of this reaction where they're saying, oh, you can get all the gold, but that's tacky now. You know, you see rich people now and they dress like, they just wear like, oh, it looks like you're just wearing like black clothes. Everything is just black clothes. But that is somehow the correct thing versus what these new guys, the industrialists, were kind of making. So then suddenly they're like, okay, this painting of 3 lines, that's good taste. And, you know, these new rich people are kind of like, well, what? I thought this portrait was cool. And they're like, no, you don't understand. You're not divinely ordained. You know, so it was kind of this reaction came about. Exactly. Like, you don't know what taste is. And then that kind of feeds into capitalist society as it progresses. And so you get this point now where there are the tastemakers who will tell you that that's worth 6.2 million. But if it doesn't speak to you, you know, I think this is the problem, because then they'll make you feel guilty for not understanding. And you shouldn't feel guilty. Like, if I used to look at a Jackson Pollock painting, which is, you know, it looks like a lot of spray, you know, it looks like a painter's radio.
Yeah,
you know, it's got paint spread all over
Shit
it, like
everywhere,
random. And it, you know, people go, that's worth 50 million, and you'll be like, oh, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
That must mean I'm stupid. So I should not try and engage with art. You know, it scares people off. It gatekeeps people. But if I look at that, you know, I'll go, oh, what's he trying to tell me? And what it's about is emotion. It's about him maybe being, you know, the colors he's using is expressing anger, and the way that he's throwing them up, you can imagine that he's just slashing at the canvas. So, okay, it's about anger. Like I said earlier on about football, start with just the basics.
Yeah.
You know, get into it and just think about it yourself. And there's no wrong answer with art. There's no way that you can be wrong about what you think. So if you look at that 3 lines and you get nothing from it, that's fine. You know, nobody should feel bad or guilty about it.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the YouTube video or a YouTube channel? I think it's called Great Art Explained.
Explain, yes.
Oh.
I love it. Love it.
Again, having no idea, like, why is Mona Lisa $8 billion?
Yeah.
And then he explains it and you're like, oh, I get it a lot more than I did. He painted that like 1 layer of paint at a time, so the light can come through the back. And oh my God, even the one that got me was the Klimt.
Yeah.
I've seen that picture. It's everywhere.
Yeah, like notebooks and
it's
cups
everywhere.
and everything.
And then this guy explains it. Great Art Explained in 15 minutes is it? And he explains it, and you're like, oh my God, there's a lot of depth to it. I still don't think it should be $40 billion or whatever it is, but it's still pretty interesting because he gives a whole background to like his lifestyle and what made
and he
him
puts
do
it
that.
in context, you know, and he
Really
explains,
cool.
because that's what your friend was saying, you know, it's about establishing your kind of techniques and your methods and your theory. And like that guy who does Great Art Explained, he's amazing for making stuff accessible and understandable. And he's doing great things.
Have you seen the one, The Milkmaid?
I don't think so. No.
Man, that it's so I don't know who did it. Fuck, I can't remember the artist's name. And it's just a lady pouring milk, and then you're like, whatever. It looks nice. It just looks like an old picture. And this guy explains every detail and look at the lines here and the oh man, it's incredible. I can't do any justice explaining it. Watch. You're gonna watch it. I gotta find out who drew that, but anyways,
change in direction a little bit, or maybe not. Can you tell us a little bit about the art that you create and that you enjoy? We touched on your wives a little bit there.
Yep.
Give us a little bit about what makes
Vermeer.
what makes you tick and what inspires your art.
So whenever I would say to people, I'm a photographer, I think it's kind of an easy way, like in the same way if someone said, where are you from? I would just say Ireland, you know, instead of mentioning my hometown, because it's so specific and niche and small. Like, broadly speaking, I'm a photographer, but I came to photography in a really roundabout way, because in school I had really crappy teachers, and like Northern Ireland's a very deprived place, very poor country as a whole, and then the Irish Catholic community of which I'm from is also massively disadvantaged historically. So I went to a pretty good school for my hometown, but you know, whenever you're in school, that's your world, and you just take everything as being
standard,
very black and white, like that's the way the world is, kind of thing. So I had a terrible art teacher who I had some ability with. I used to do like oil pastels and painting and stuff, and I had some ability, but this teacher really just disagreed with my subject matter. So for example, one of my final projects for my GCSE, no, it was do you know Rob Zombie? Yeah, the musician,
dude, another genius mind.
Love him.
Genius mind. Yeah.
So I did this oil pastel kind of Van Gogh style, where I smudged the oil pastel. You know, you'll see that famous Van Gogh portrait where it's like streaks of oil pastel. So I did Rob Zombie as a zombie crawling out of a graveyard, out of a grave, for my final project, and she just didn't like the subject matter. You know, so she, you know, called my parents, and it wasn't the first time either, because I'll tell you,
he's drawing zombies again.
Well, it's coming up to Christmas, so do you know 2000 AD? It was a comic. It was a British comic, It's quite a, like Judge Dredd.
Okay.
He was the main character from 2000 AD, but it was like a sort of compilation every bi-weekly, something like that. But it was Christmas, and we were supposed to do a Christmas card, and I quite liked Judge Dredd, but you know, it's very violent comic. So I drew the Christmas card where there was like Santa Claus's legs and a pool of blood, and Judge Dredd standing there saying speeding in capital city is a capital offense. You know, and the implication is he killed Santa Claus because I'm sorry, kids. But it was
Driving too
a
fast.
humorous, you know, Santa Claus has to speed, of course.
Yeah.
You know, it was humorous. She didn't get it, so she called my parents. That was maybe the first time my parents were called in. So anyway, long story short, I was massively put off art. Massively, because I just thought, oh, this is stupid. I hate it. I hate education. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I completely checked out of the world, really, because I was just very dissatisfied with everything for probably about 10 years, and then gradually, like, I started making some visual art, like painting or drawing or sketching. I like making music. I studied media as well, so I made some film stuff in my maybe late 20s. Which is also the time that I came over here. And then, like, Ireland's quite a conservative country. Coming here really opened things up. Like, Korea is very conservative, but the community that I became a part of, the expat community, was not conservative. So I was basically able to be myself, and I would do crazy stuff like I had done whenever I was a teenager, and people would like it. So suddenly,
soju drums up the creativity.
Oh yeah,
and
it just like
inspiration.
opens the mind, you know. So I started doing more visual art and was involved in some things, and then I met my wife through art, and you know, being married to someone as talented as she is, I was like, oh, I can't do visual art. I can't paint. I can't do this as well. I'm never going to be as good as she is naturally. So that kind of led me to, you know, again, experimenting a little bit. And the main thing that an artist needs is the opportunity to feel. You know, you feel F-A-I-L. Sometimes my pronunciation, people are like,
fail, yeah.
F-E-E-L.
I was going to put an asterisk
Fail,
on
yeah.
the thing about the paintings.
Yeah.
Painting.
Right. Yeah, I have to be careful sometimes.
Painting.
Really? I didn't. Fail was the only one that I picked up. But I still know in
someone
context.
Someone picked up on that the other day. I said 8 the other day to somebody. I was counting numbers, and I said 8, and he was like, what? What did you say?
7, 8.
Sorry, 8, bro. 5, 6, 7, 8. Anyway, so I was playing around. I got into film photography because it's just a little bit slower and a little bit more interesting. And then I met Ali, and we started going out, just walking around Busan, taking pictures of things. And then it was from there. So I also wrote a fair bit, and I was published a few times for writing in different places. And I thought the thing that really kind of grabbed me and got me was photography.
Cool. Yeah.
And so I did a master's in fine art photography just before the pandemic.
Wow.
I decided to do it. So the pandemic
Where
was.
did you do that?
It was online through University of Ulster, so that's Northern Irish University, and that was 2 years. And you know, the pandemic for me was not as bad relatively. You know, like I know a lot of people had a really terrible time, difficult, awful. It wasn't great for me, but also it gave me a lot of time just to purely focus on doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and thankfully I also never got the coronavirus, so I was, you know, healthy throughout the time. I was able to focus on my studies. It was a little bit difficult because I was also supposed to make a practical project, and I didn't want to make a project about the pandemic.
Yeah.
So trying to do any other kind of project while all that's happening was difficult.
Yeah.
I went up to Gangwon-do a few times for stuff, and that was mad traveling during that time. So anyway, to answer your question in a really roundabout way, I'm into fine art photography, but a lot of different kinds of subject matter, I suppose.
Under the photography umbrella.
Yeah. So I would say I'm artist first. The medium is photography for the moment.
Awesome.
Let's say.
Listen, going back to that guy whose name I can't remember, said about finding your path. He's like, you gotta really, what makes you tick, and it should be hard work, but it doesn't feel like hard work. These are things people talk about all the time, but it's if you can find that, it seems that you are well on your way to really nailing it down or really identifying what that is.
Yeah,
it's important, man, and
got there eventually,
and satisfying. And satisfying. Can you tell us about the your logo here, the 3 spirals?
It's a Triskelion, which is an Irish. It's like an ancient Irish symbol. So you mentioned mushrooms earlier on. So the ancient Irish, the Celts, they used to indulge in.
They're gonna say we got some in Busan.
they indulge in the special kind of mushroom, and if you go to some of the old tombs and sort of the seats of the high kings of Ireland that are like 2,000 or 4,000 years old, you'll see this Triskelion. And people think that it was inspired by that kind of experience. But it represents birth, life, and death.
Oh, cool.
So the 3 spirals. And then the ancient Irish didn't think of time as being linear. They thought about it as being cyclical. Okay. So it was by the season, they didn't have a concept of time advancing the way that we do nowadays. So it was about the way time kind of spirals and continues, and the seasons change, and food grows and food dies, and animals grow and animals die.
Or if there's any religious connection to that too. Holy Trinity, the 3.
Well, I think that so then the clover, not the shamrock. The shamrock is kind of the Irish stereotype, but the clover we have, which the St. Patrick used the clover. That was already a pagan symbol for us. And then St. Patrick used that to explain Christianity, because he would just say that's the what do you say, God, Jesus, and the
Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Yeah, that's the one. So he used that, but it was kind of, as with most things in Christianity, let's take what already exists and just put our name on it. It's like branding,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that represents.
St. Patrick, that's I won't even start. It's been so bastardized at home. St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, Jesus.
Where's my fucking big
green
tall hat?
Beer and kiss me, I'm Irish tie. What happens on St. Patrick's Day here, I have nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with Ireland at all.
The funniest thing to me, like, just coming from Canada, it was green beer and hats, and you're like, oh, must be what they do in Ireland. And then it's like, bro, you're at the bartender, you're yelling like, give me 6 Irish car bombs, 4 green beers.
Yeah.
You come over here and you meet some Irish people, you're like, oh, we shouldn't be ordering any of those. That has nothing to do with the history or culture.
I mean, for me, because it's interesting, like for me, whenever I was young, St. Patrick's Day was a holy day,
Yeah,
so you put on your nice clothes, you might put a little sprig of clover, but you wouldn't be wearing green, really. You would have like one little bit of plant on your lapel. You'd go to mass, and then you'd go to, maybe they would have a fun fair. That was the height of it. There was it wasn't about drinking or anything. It's and then it goes. So then obviously it went to America and became this whole mad thing, and then that's come back to Ireland now, because you go to you go to Dublin on St. Patrick's Day, and like 90% of the people you bump into, it's Americans in Dublin. Like, I'm here for the green beer. They're turning the Liffey green. This is amazing. And it's like, this is not. No Irish people are, they get involved in it, but really just to pick up, American.
Sure. Do you like my Northern Ireland accent? Come on back.
You send any of your holidays to the States, they can fix them up and give them a tune-up for you.
Yeah.
That's funny. Americans abroad.
Halloween is Irish as well. It's
ancient. I knew it was European. I didn't know where exactly.
So we would call it Samhain. So that's the Celtic name for it. Okay. And Samhain was... we believe that there's the world and then the other world, which is like a layer, like a gossamer layer that lays over. So that's where the Shide live, the fairies and leprechauns and all that. But that's like parallel to our world. So at Samhain, that's whenever though that world and our world is closest together. So that's why we wouldn't put out pumpkins because they didn't exist, but it was turnips for us. You would put those out to kind of scare away these demons and whatever that were coming over. Obviously, whenever it went over, that became Halloween.
Yeah.
All those shenanigans, toilet paper and that. That's what happens over there.
And that's why when someone says like, "What's Canadian?" Everyone's like, "I don't know if anything's Canadian." Like, it's all coming from everywhere else, and whatever we do to it is not close to what it was when it came over. So
yeah,
we got Lucky Charms.
That's not from Canada, is it?
No, I don't know. It's North America.
It's just funny that it's a cereal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, which I think is banned in Europe.
Probably
because it's too much sugar or something.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
lots of them.
Yeah, I learned something new today.
Yeah.
Deadly. Maybe you want to plug the next thing coming up. You said you got the 2 Korean artists.
Yeah, so it's a couple of young Korean artists who have just graduated, and they've got an exhibition on starting on the 14th or 15th.
That'll run for a week?
It'll be two weeks.
Nice.
I think it finishes on the 29th of December.
Wow.
So it's going to be right across Christmas.
What are they specialize in, or what's their...
I can't tell you yet. I haven't seen it. My wife's been dealing with them.
Oh, okay.
Predominantly.
Oh, I thought it was a secret.
No. Yeah, I probably should have checked before.
That's all right.
But it should be, like I'm excited for it just because it's our first Korean artists who are going to be showing work, and obviously we'll be promoting that through the social media, so people will be able to get a preview of it.
What's the artist's hope when they're displaying the work? Is it just that people look at it and they can talk about their art to other people, or are they looking to sell? Is that like the showcase for them?
I think because it depends, like artist really. I guess, some people wouldn't even be trying to sell work. I suppose it is. Because the other thing is, like I said earlier on, it's about the artist trying to communicate something to you, and it might be a story. Like usually whenever you have an exhibition, there's a theme to it. So the group exhibition that we did, that was the first proper big exhibition that we did. It was 7 different artists, and the title was Becoming Home, Becoming Home, and it was about each of us being artists from different cities or different countries, and kind of talking about what Busan meant to us. So through different kind of projects, you would be looking at the work, and my work was about Korean people who are like Gyopo or Korean American or Joseonjok, people who are Korean
abroad
ethnically, but not accepted as being like Korean, but they live in Korea, and how that feels. So it's kind of, based obviously on my own personal feelings of, I'm married to a Korean, I've lived here for almost 15 years. I might spend the rest of my life here. I could be a citizen, but no one's ever going to say that's a Korean guy. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it's complicated feelings.
The haircut gives it away.
Yeah, it's like that tall, old white guy walking down the street. That's a Korean guy. But yeah, so I was kind of like examining that, not criticizing it or promoting anything, just like looking at it as a situation and sort of trying to understand it for myself, and then through understanding, communicating to other people. Because whenever you're doing an art project, you're basically waking up every day and you're thinking about it all day, like, okay, and then you read something and something will stick out to you that's related, or you'll watch something and it'll be connected, and you develop it that way. So through that exhibition, we wanted to kind of just let people come and understand our feeling, but also maybe identify and understand themselves through that, because I think as well, more and more these days, especially with phones, people very passively consume things. You just sit there and you just see them flicking and flicking and flicking.
2024 word of the year, brain rot.
Oh, there you go.
The feeling of like fogginess and like shitheadedness after you've been scrolling.
Right, and when you're looking at people doing that, you don't see emotion. There's no joy or sadness. No. It's just focus, brain rot, as you say. Whereas whenever you're kind of confronted with whether it be a photograph or a painting or something, and you need to think about it, you're looking at it and you're going, oh, and something maybe strikes you, or maybe you look confused, or maybe you look angry about something that you've seen, if it's offensive, all of these emotions, because you've been put in a position where, that's the benefit of a gallery. You're in a position where there are no other distractions. That's why it's quiet. That's why there's, blank walls. So you can just focus on the work in front of you. And, for example, a lady who came to the gallery, she's a 60-year-old Korean lady who she moved in next door to my wife and I, our apartment, and we sort of bumped into her in the hallway, and she was talking to us and said she had lived in San Francisco. When she saw me, obviously she was like, oh, foreigner. So she came and she was talking to me about my work, and she was just saying, that's how I felt. I was in America for 30 years and I never felt like I fit in. No one accepted me as being an American. And all I want to be is just a normal day-to-day person, going to the shops, filling my car with gas, whatever, So some people just want to put the work up to communicate. If somebody wants to buy it, all the better for some people, but some people don't even want to buy, sell their stuff.
They want to sell, yeah.
So,
just speaking about not fitting in, we had a meeting the other day, and the guy sitting beside me, he's maybe, I don't know, not Korean. And I saw his name card, or like the names were on the table, and I looked and I was like Kim Dang Dang, and I was like, dude, the first thing that came out of my mouth, I went, what's your real name? I was like, oh, after I was like, oh, what a stupid thing to say. He's like, my name's Kim Dang Dang. I'm like, dude, no, your real name. And I just kept pushing it, and I was like, oh, but I mean, even, we might look at Koreans for not accepting us, but even I didn't really accept him as him trying to identify as a Korean or whatever. Yeah. It's just a boner move.
But the Koreans do that. What's your Korean name? What's your Christian name? I'm like, how many names? Just got one name.
Yeah.
Just one. Just call my name. Why? I don't like that they have to feel like lots of Filipinos who do get citizenship here, and they change and have Korean names. That's so weird.
Why? Yeah. I mean, I think it's weird whenever my students try and tell me they've got an English name. I'm like, why? I learned Spanish when I was in school. I didn't get a Spanish name. And then they're like, oh, but it's hard for foreigners to say our name. Well, it's hard because, it's not hard, number one. Number two, if it is hard, they need to get used to it and try.
Yeah, sure.
Just use your Korean name. It's fine. Like, if people are unfamiliar with it, then it's good that they maybe have a bit of a challenge to say it. Like my name, I think is quite simple. Niall, right? But the amount of times I give up trying to correct people.
Nair?
Well, people often say Niall, like Nile Gan, like the river in Egypt. Some people have said, oh, Egypt Ramya. And I'm like, no. But I don't even bother correcting people. It's, if people are talking to you, you know what I mean? So I don't think people should try and necessarily conform to make it easier for other people.
Sure. Just one last one here.
Hold on. If I told someone my name was Pak Jae-won, they'd be like, bullshit. So I don't think that's wrong or bad. That's our instinct. I know that's not your name. There's no...
It was the second or third follow-up, I think, that really buried me. It's like, no, dude, your real name. What is home to you? This has come up in past episodes. You talked about being, or what is it called?
Becoming home.
Becoming home, yeah. What is home to you, or where is home to you?
Yeah, so
it's a very nuanced question, but
like I said, I was working on that project for the group exhibition since like March or so, but I'd been thinking about it for a couple of years, total. And so I came, because I've struggled since I've been here. Like I come from a country where people of my background are the minority slightly. I mean, actually we're now the majority, but whenever I was young, we were the minority, and we were the dispossessed minority as well. And I lived in Belfast for a while, and I lived in Dublin for a while. And whenever I lived in, I grew up thinking I'm Irish. I lived in Belfast, and that became complicated because my name's Niall, which is an native Irish name. And I was living in a Protestant area, which automatically was, danger for me if I said my
so
name.
happy
or
I
my
watched that
hometown.
movie 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now you understand.
Yes.
But like,
Oh my
even if
God.
I said my hometown's Newry, and Newry's predominantly a Catholic hometown. So if I said I'm from Newry, people would know, oh, you're an Irish Catholic. And I'm actually not a Catholic. You know, the joke is, you know, there's a guy driving down the street and the police stop him in Northern Ireland and say, are you Catholic or Protestant? And he says, I'm actually an atheist. The policeman thinks for a second, goes, you Catholic atheist or Protestant atheist?
Yeah.
You know? So that's kind of reality. And then I moved to Dublin, and suddenly whenever I was living in Dublin, that's Ireland, and I'm thinking, well, we're all Irish together and we want a united Ireland, right? And then the people in Dublin were like, no, you're a bleeding Nordy. You're from the north. You're a terrorist, blah, blah, blah. You know, and it was kind of half joking, like, but so I never felt at home necessarily in my home. Even in my hometown, I was running around listening to heavy metal, one of the 3 or 4 people who did. So I was never really accepted there.
Yeah.
So coming to Korea, you know, it almost makes more sense that people will say he's different, not because of the way he thinks or the way he acts or his religion or anything like that. It's just he's a tall, bald white guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot clearer here why I might not be necessarily accepted in some situations. So all of that being said, my home is my wife and my cat and me.
Nice.
And that's it.
Cool. There was back to the movie. There was a one scene with the 2 kids and the young boy, like the main actor in the thing, and he's asking, I don't know if it's a sister, maybe a neighbor. He's like, or she's explaining to him, like, if his name's Niall, then he's a Catholic, and if the name's Mike, he's a Protestant. He's like, well, what if the name's this? She's like, well, you don't know, or whatever. But it was an interesting conversation how they were, how kids interpreted the whole situation and trying to draw lines based on names, and then in the end they realized like it doesn't. You don't know. Oh, but Susie lives on our block and she's not, and she's not Protestant.
I got one before we finish up. Just on the topic of starting business with your wife as a partner. I always say don't do business with your brother or your
Go on.
spouse.
I think I know where this is
Not
going.
outside of the bedroom.
Maybe just some advice, or if it's something you guys can, like, how do you... I know how I would run it, but I'm sure my wife wouldn't agree. So I don't know how you end up on the same page and you get through it. I mean, it's awesome if you do it. I'm sure there's some bumps in the road, but maybe some advice or just some inside scoop on what it's like working so close with your wife.
We are pretty lucky in that we have, our relationship is very solid, we rarely have major problems, and whenever we do have major problems in the relationship, it's usually a case of me, like both of us kind of sitting down and going, okay, what's the problem here? Like, genuinely, it could be one of us is just really hungry. And I would say I don't suffer from that as much. You can say I'm a thing guy, not that you know. But we just compromise a lot in our relationship. That's the way we've always done things, like just discussing and talking, and you'll get super angry and really pissed off at each other and want to walk out of the room, but you just stick at it and you keep talking, and you eventually get to a point where you understand each other. And adding the business to it has been more stressful for sure, but it's just, compromise, and it's all the old things that people say, like compromise, knowing which battle to fight and which to leave, and if she believes that this is the right thing to do and I disagree, then maybe we
and
talk
she's right.
About usually. Usually,
I think of a lot of maybe people who have settled down a bit and started businesses here. A lot of them are probably related to schools or bars, restaurants, and I just don't know if I could make that work. I mean, I feel bad for the Korean wives who are trying to run academies and stuff, because I just go in, I teach, I know how to do this, I'm good, but you got to deal with all the moms and all the headache, it's just completely unbalanced, and I don't know how you're getting kind of maybe mental stress from the parents and all this stuff, and I just manage the kids give me stress. Okay, but that's not a big deal. And the restaurant side of it too. tell your friends to shut up. They're too noisy. You know, you guys drink too much. You got to cool it down a bit. I mean, our buddies' wives just packed it in and left and let the guys run it. And they went straight into the ground. And I mean, that's, I think it's a huge challenge. And if you guys make it work, I think that's fantastic.
I mean, it could be just like the business model, maybe because the way we're doing it or the business that we're running.
Do you have distinct roles? You do this, I do this. I take care of bookings and finance. You take care of the artistic part of it.
In the early throes.
Well, I would say she does do. I mean, she's obviously had to do all the business license stuff. You know, she's officially the owner. She would deal with a lot of the admin stuff, and then we would kind of work together on specific projects. I mean, I suppose the balance does kind of lie on her side, unfortunately.
Man, going forward though,
which I appreciate, by the way. I'm going on record. I appreciate the hell out of her.
And I think if you guys have the same vision going forward, it doesn't matter what obstacle's gonna. If you guys both have that long term, this is where we're going, this is where we want to be, then any little bullshit that pops up in any speed bump or whatever, it's just. We're going to get over this. Let's talk about it and just let's keep going towards the... actually, no one's looking to bail.
Probably the main thing that has helped is that I think there's a lot of people who might think about opening a business and they'll spend their whole kind of life, you know, I'm saving for this business. This is my big idea. I'm going to do it. And then they'll do it. And, you know, what is it, like 90% of businesses fail in the first year or something like that. And they'll open this business and they'll be like, here we go, this is my one shot. And of course, if you do anything for the first time, it's going to be a struggle to make it successful, right? Yeah. So I think the good thing that we did was we said, all right, we've got a 2-year contract on the space, right? And we are financially stable enough that we can take a hit until this point in the future. So we were prepared for that. And also we said, we're going to try our best. We're going to learn as much as we can. But if this business fails, we're not going to take that as like, never do business again. We're going to think, this is our first try.
That's the time to start a new business right away, because now you know what not to do.
Exactly. Because you can, you know, as I mentioned earlier, if we end up moving and trying to do something similar in another country, we have got so much that we have learned along the way of this.
I was just listening to the ex-Google CEO there on a podcast, and he said, the best CFO to hire is the one that just blew up the biggest business and lost, $5 trillion, because he knows exactly what not to do.
Oh, yeah.
And he will thrive if you give him a job tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting way of looking at it. Yeah. If you fail today, you know exactly what to do tomorrow.
Well, it was Samuel Beckett said, fail again, and feel better.
Yeah. Fail forward, I think.
Fail forward.
I don't know, where would you see it? Maybe you say you have a 2-year lease. Where you're 5-6 months in, whatever. Maybe 18 months. Where would you see it? 6 months before the contract's up. How do you envision what would be happening there?
We're
realistically and maybe ideally.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we're prepared for, if between now and then nothing goes well. I mean, earlier on I said things have been way better than we expected. Mm-hmm. It's been really more successful than we could have hoped for the first couple of months. If it gets to 18 months and things are kind of not going well, I think it's okay. We have other directions that we want to go.
Yep.
We can take the experiences we've learned. Maybe the final lesson is that maybe we're not suited for it, But at the moment, we're kind of just taking it day by day, learning what we can, being open to ideas and trying to make the decisions based on the right reasons rather than making purely financial decisions. Just keep living in the moment and making the decisions based on the right things. And if it's going well in 18 months, all well and good. If it's successful, we might continue doing it. If it's not the right time, if it's not the right place, if it's not the right city, we sort of pack it up and take the lessons and do it again or not, as the case may be.
Awesome. I like the perspective. I like the idea. I like the putting it into practice. It's awesome. Really, really nice. inspired to open my own here.
All right.
Let's
get a network going.
Dude, I'm serious. By next year, 2025, one of the projects.
3 weeks.
Open. Not by the end of 2025.
But you know what? Like, this is what I imagine. You guys you're doing the podcast, right? I don't know if you're serious earlier on when you said millions are listening.
No.
But you're doing it because you have a feeling that you want to do it. You're interested and you want to have these conversations, and you're just doing it because you have a compulsion to do it.
Man,
right? It's the best reason to do anything.
There's no.
Because I can't talk at the bar anymore. It's 10 minutes in, and then nobody knows how to talk anymore.
But there's not enough. Yeah, I felt like if you're teaching kids all day, even if you're teaching like ESL learners, people who don't speak fluently, like I missed that conversation of sitting down and hanging. And if you're anywhere except here, it's socially acceptable to just pick up your phone and tune out for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so
totally.
That's when you turn this on, it's kind of like a magic. Or you put a microphone in front of someone, everyone's like, oh, okay, we can't be doing that here.
I'm just getting past the first page of Google. I mean, if I meet someone cool at the bar and I want to talk to them, and they're like, well, dude, I came here to hang out and relax. And I'm like, why you want to have this deep down conversation about serious shit? I'm like, because you're cool, and I traveled in those parts of the world, and I got lots of stories. I want to connect.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I'm just here to do shots, so see you later. And I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
Come to the podcast then, and we'll have a real chat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But you're living that all the time, man. And you talk. I mean, even speaking financially, like, man, you're paying for the space, and if you didn't recoup that money, but think about the experiences. Like, how much would you pay to go hang out with the sound bath guy? Like, I'd pay admission to go in and do that, or listen to people speak. I watched the YouTube video, 2.5 hours. I think that was your preview. What's his name? The Liquid Arts.
Kenneth?
I think he was presenting it. There's something on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a 2-hour thing. I scrolled through that. That's where I got the free wine. Free wine, wink, wink line there. But like, how much would you pay to go in and see that, or I mean, even be there live to experience it, man? It's priceless.
Yeah, exactly.
Priceless.
Exactly.
And you're living that every day.
That's exactly what I sent a message to my parents, just like a short video of what was going on. And I was like, this is my Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I had been 20 years ago saying, in the future, all I want to be doing is hanging out on a Saturday afternoon, looking at art and drinking wine.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. 100%.
Of course I want to make that my full-time job.
Oh, of course. Yeah, man. Well, keep going. I think you got a great start. I hope our millions listening. There's a translation for millions. It's like going won to dollars, right? 100 Korean or 1 million Korean listeners is only 1,000. But no, anyways, you got a great start, man. And thank you for coming, sharing your story. Next time I'm in, what is it? Suyong.
Yeah.
I'll definitely stop by and say hello.
Yeah,
That's
thanks
awesome.
for having me. Really appreciate it. It's been, again, what a great Saturday morning, you know?
Oh, it's so much better than tea. I used to teach all day on Saturday, man.
hang over on the couch.
Yeah, waking up. Probably just be waking up at this time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much for coming.
Cheers.
Nate, you good?
Yeah, no, just again, appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, and
Keep going.
yeah, all the best next year.
Cool.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.